Broadcasting live. It's America's longest running talk show on computers. It's Computer America, bringing you the biggest names in technology with guest interviews, new products, and your emails. Listen live at computeramerica.com on any device around the world. Email the show at live@computeramerica.com or find us on social media. Be sure to check out our website for contests, giveaways, show notes, live video stream, podcasts, and more. You're listening to Computer America.
Hello and welcome into the Computer America Show, everyone. We are the nation's longest running, nationally syndicated radio talk show on computers and technology. And everyone, hey, welcome into the program. So today on the show, we have computer and technology news. We have a full hour of it, and you know what? We are really looking forward to it. Because we have a lot of great stories. Everything from why Bitcoin is doing its thing and more. I actually need to change the title. Let's see. So everyone, computeramerica.com. That's where you'll find everything, including that's where you find everything from past shows, future shows, all the shows, and of course you can find links to social media, the podcast. You can find articles, reviews, anything that we do in association with Computer America. You can of course find it there on the program, on the website. So with that being said, we're going to go ahead and get started with all these different stories. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. So everyone, Computer and Technology News brought to you by Computer America. Here we go. So everyone, I think that today's first story we're going to do is, I really do appreciate everything that the open source community does, their philosophy, how they, operate themselves. And it's always very intriguing to me that so many people can come together for a singular purpose. So many companies, entities, organizations can really come together and, either donate their time, or companies that are opening up their resources to, for the betterment of really, coding as a whole, for technology as a whole. But to go along with that, people are not robots, even though coding is coding and it's hard technical stuff, that does not mean that the influences of individuals and people don't have, sway here. And that's very much apparent with this next story, where something that I didn't even know. I did not even know Korea had a crown prince. But check this one out. Developers flee. And yes, that's what this article here from Motherboard is calling it. Developers flee from open source project after takeover by Korean crown prince. And of course, takeovers in quotes. Let's find out why it's a takeover. But developers of the popular open source FreeNode, or I should say open source network FreeNode, are quitting en masse and accusing Andrew Lee, the Crown Prince of Korea, of a hostile takeover of the organization, which you can see them there. So for those who don't know, FreeNode was founded in 1994 and has since become the largest free and open source project that runs Internet Relay Chat, or IRC. Computer America actually had maintained for quite a while their own IRC, and of course. It's not the most user-friendly thing, but it's simple, it's effective, it works, and it's actually very, very, customizable. It can fit all kinds of tasks, and it's very again, like open source itself, it's not pretty, but it works, and it works really, really well. So IRC is still very popular today. And they mentioned that, well, the author mentions it was once hugely popular. I would say that it's still hugely popular, just not in, kind of more mainstream circles. And there's still an important internet chat protocol. It has traditionally been run by volunteers and has amassed 90,000 users and just shy of 50,000 registered channels, according to the organization's official website. And while it's not as popular as it used to be, it's still a key site for free software project coordination. Because, if you want to talk with the people who maintain, run, and code, live the open source lifestyle, they're of course going to congregate in places like IRC that are themselves very much, kind of open source. Well, on Wednesday, a dozen FreeNode staff volunteers published posts announcing their resignation, which explained their decision to quit. There's a link to that in the article. You can find it right here. But yeah, and actually, it's pretty funny. The author took the time to actually individually, every one of these words, looks like one continuous link here, but every one of these words happens to be an individual post on why they quit. The broad strokes of the letter explains that they believe Lee bought the entire FreeNode network under what they believed are false but legal pretenses, and that they have lost control over the network. They said that there is little the staff can do to oppose the changes that Lee wants to implement. This reminds me a lot of when Red Hat was purchased. Who purchased Red Hat? Red Hat purchased IBM. That's who it was. Red Hat was purchased by IBM, and that's kind of the thing about, this organization and, everything that Red Hat does for the open source community. Well, you can buy the organization, but you can't buy the people, the people who volunteer, work for, and contribute to these projects. If they don't agree with what they're doing, and you can be sure the open source community is very opinionated. Let's go ahead and say that. Well, if they don't agree, they're just going to up and quit. And it seems like that's what it was. Now, they say the now former staff members announced that they're launching a new chat network to continue FreeNode's mission, and one FreeNode staffer wrote in his resignation that the FreeNode IRC network has been taken over by a narcissistic Trumpian wannabe Korean royalty, Bitcoin's millionaire. So that's a lot of buzzwords. There you go. Saying that there is no moral and likely no legal way for FreeNode to have been sold. I am numb from pain. That's what one developer wrote. So let's actually find out what happened. In 2017, the then head of staff at FreeNode incorporated the project as FreeNode Ltd. And sold it to Andrew Lee. At the time, both the heads of staff and Lee promised that FreeNode would keep running as it had been until then, and that the incorporation and sale was done just to sponsor a conference. That was true until this year, according to several developers. Lee contested that the former staffers' claim, saying to say that staffers were unaware would be misleading, he said in a phone call. The ramifications of the former staffers' decisions are still unclear, but they could have a huge impact for developers all over the world. Again, this is a very, very popular community of open source developers, all kind of we talked about the difference between a soft fork and a hard fork when it came to, kind of cryptocurrency. Well, this looks like a hard fork. People did not ideologically agree with this move, so they went off and started their own network. Now you have two competing groups. And with that being said, a technologist who works at the Freedom of the Press Foundation said that FreeNode has been part of the infrastructure of the free software community for so long, it's hard to even imagine the projects this schism will affect, which is very, very true. It's to put it into something that, for those who don't kind of operate in these circles, it would be like if SMS if there was a falling out with SMS and cell phone companies were like, we're no longer going to be using SMS. We are all switching over to this new thing, a different protocol, a different way. SMS is still going to continue and exist, but we're asking everyone to jump ship because we don't agree with what SMS is doing. It would be that level of, of change that it's so baked in to so many products, and it's so handy, accessible. IRC itself is going to, really to imagine that IRC itself goes away in the blink of an eye just because, a dozen developers leave. Don't get me wrong. They could have been involved for the past 30 years, but that's still 30 years of being ingrained into so many projects. It's really hard to imagine that this changes all that much. They mentioned, and so the words actually that Parker Higgins kind of mentions include this, saying that there are literally decades of integrations, web clients that are likely to be used by people who are not following the twists and turns of the saga, documentation that mentions FreeNode by name, approximately a zillion scripts and bots that all need to be updated against a backdrop of IRC continuing marginalizations. It's going to be tough. I think we'll see projects focus a little more energy on more centralized platforms, and a lot of people in the free software community will be disappointed by that. Essentially, they had this protocol, this backbone that they could always rely on and integrate, and obviously everyone knew how it worked and coded, and they could share resources. Obviously, if you had a certain way, and really that's kind of the point of open source software, is that imagine if you needed something updated. Well, people already had bots and kind of programming techniques that worked with IRC. You could just copy and paste and utilize it for your own work, or develop something that dozens or hundreds of other projects could use. Suddenly all of those are going to be null and void if if this actually goes through. So let's go ahead and talk about this real quick. So on May 11th, so about a week ago, I think this is what set everything off, Lee announced in the official FreeNode support channel that he was appointing a new person to run the network's infrastructure, which was a violation of the agreement that the staff members thought Lee was abiding to after buying FreeNode in 2017, saying, quote, giving him access would violate the trust of all of our users and would be illegal in many of the jurisdictions in which we operate. The FreeNode user base should consider very strongly that a hostile entity is now in operational control over the network and is in possession of your data. Because, of course, I'm sure a lot of people have shared a lot of sensitive data, amongst themselves, and have, stored that on a number of servers. Long story short, all of this culminates to something that makes really so little sense, and they're promising to, kind of hope it. They incorporated it to sponsor sponsor an event. It sounded like, again, that was kind of what set all this off. So he is the legal owner since 2017. And now in 2021, he is appointing new people to helm the thing. And that's why it's so crazy to me that, everything was copacetic, and of course he starts making a move and people start to lose lose their collective stuff. I don't really know what they were expecting. It's so crazy that they can be like, oh, we're just incorporating for this one little thing. Don't worry about it. Yeah, it could potentially turn out really, really bad, but don't worry about that. And they seem to have worked themselves into a hole, and to say that they didn't see this coming, admittedly, if human nature was flawless, yeah, this would have been perfectly fine forever and ever and ever. But clearly the ideals of the Crown Prince of South Korea did not jive with the open source community. By the way, they even have a tweet here from FreeNode itself saying, FreeNode's volunteer staff are aware of and sorry about the noise this morning. We still retain control of the network and will let you know if and when that changes. So there you go. It's the people who still work for FreeNode, or not work for, but at least volunteer, are trying to put on a good face on this. Let's see. So they said that this appears to be the final straw that was prompted the staff members to resign, but tensions between them and Lee had been growing in the last few months and years. Saying, quote, every remaining staff member was lied to, our community was lied to, he wrote in his resignation. It's just so crazy, and I get it. You know, these communities are very person to person. They're not very well funded. Having some kind of funding really helps everything just so much. It just seems so crazy that it's like, oh, you're building, we have this nice little house here. Oh, you're putting a new roof on it. That's great. You are fixing the foundation. That's great. New walls, perfect. And then all of a sudden, the person who built that house, or at least paid for that house, definitely not the person who built it, but the person who paid for it says, oh, by the way, you go in this room now. And everyone goes, whoa. You may own it, but you can't appoint people in it. And it turns out, yeah, he technically can. But I can also see how the members are so jilted by this at the same time. Thinking that they're that the ideals and the community were all aligned, and turns out over the past couple of months, not so much. They mentioned in February this year, a person put the logo of Shells.com on the FreeNode website. Shells is a company co-founded by Lee, at which Mark Kerpels, the founder of the highly controversial Mt. Gox, which Mt. Gox should ring a bell because that is a defunct Bitcoin exchange, is CTO. Staffers criticized this decision, and, well, the person who put the logo up resigned. Essentially, a little bit of cross-pollination between some of the other businesses that the owner runs. The staffers then elected a new head of staff. Lee told Motherboard that he was not given a chance to weigh in on this decision, and that he believes it's always been clear that he owned FreeNode. Staffers said in their letters that Lee had no right to interfere in the decision. So I guess that's really what kicked it off. They elected a new head of staff, and, well, the owner appointed a new head of staff. Clearly, when you buy a community, sounds like he let them operate with a pretty good amount of free will. But any control that he exerts is going to be seen as silencing or not being deferential to the community. Let's see. So, and there's actually a quote here from Lee himself saying, quote, given the millions I have injected into FreeNode this far, the fact that I own it, and the fact that I protected the FreeNode staff with professional legal work and funding when they needed help and they could still lie and slander like this, says a lot about who they are. I simply want FreeNode to keep on being a great IRC network and to support it financially and legally as I have for a long time now. There you go. In a leaked internal chat from last Friday, Lee and staffers argued over who should have operational control of FreeNode. At one point, Lee snapped at one of the former staffers, writing, "You ban abusively and haven't really helped FreeNode at all until now. FreeNode policies have been shaped for you and your posse to extract value, and now you're holding it hostage while asking people to go to another network." There you go. So several staff members have challenged the version that Lee is putting forward, and they say that Lee is pressuring people with gag orders and lawyers, which makes sense. All of this, so we're going to skip ahead. This is a lot of, kind of drama, almost like high school-esque drama. But we're going to wrap this up by saying that a cybersecurity engineer who recently worked for the Joe Biden campaign thanked the resigning staffers in a tweet for their impact on technology. And she said that I spent countless hours on FreeNode from the time I was a 12-year-old and had incredible luck to discover IRC. If you wanted to connect directly with the maintainers of an open source project, well, FreeNode was the place to go. And say that despite folks who wish for a return to the heyday of IRC, we are certainly witnessing the end of an era. So I think that's the best way to put it. Obviously, FreeNode and IRC is still going to continue. someone trying, the owner of IRC trying to monetize it should not be a surprise. You don't pay something, you don't pay millions and millions and millions of dollars and think that, oh, this person is just doing that out of the kindness of their heart. That'd be nice, but no such luck. If they decide to monetize it, though, just like Red Hat and being sold to IBM, the users don't really have to stand for it. They can go ahead, move on to their next project. And it sounds like they already have, a number of them have. And yeah, it's, it kind of sucks that there's no one singular group anymore. But at the same time, I think that diversity in projects and, hey, diversity in points of view should be valued as well. So, but by and large, I got to say that, there's one point in the article that made a good point, saying that not many people follow this, the machinations of the egos and the owners and things like that. And by and large, I really do feel like the users of IRC are just going to continue to do their thing, keep their head down and continue to use the service as they see fit. And until the point where it becomes unusable for those users, they're probably just going to, migrate away. That's how it goes. Nothing's really keeping them there. It may be a lot of work and hard to, kind of not be integrated, but still. Let's go ahead and continue on here. Tons of different articles that we can choose from, some updates to services that we can talk about. How about we discuss, all right, this is probably some of the biggest news of the day. Microsoft and Internet Explorer. Hey, Internet Explorer is being revived, and all of you are going to be using it in June 2022. That was a joke. That's actually not going to happen. Microsoft will truly, finally kill off Internet Explorer in June 2022. There you go. So it's been out of support for a long time. Internet Explorer, I think it made it up to like 11, was the last version of IE 11, and that came out in 2014, 15, something like that. Obviously, Microsoft Edge debuted in 2015, and Internet Explorer 11 was supposed to drop support back in 2016. So here we are 6 years later, which Microsoft is always very generous with the amount of time it gives. Windows 95, XP, they're very generous with their time. But enough is enough. They say that people have truly had enough time to make the necessary switches that they need to, and they will end support completely starting June 15th, 2022. They say that the move won't affect the Windows 10 long-term servicing channel, which is used for devices that stay the same over time, such as MRI machines and air traffic control systems, nor will the retirement affect server Internet Explorer 11 desktop applications. For the most part, though, Internet Explorer will be put to pasture in a little under 13 months. It's, like the article said, long time coming. Perfect. Internet Explorer has been part of the Windows fabric for over a quarter of a century, and as we mentioned, Edge 2015, end of support 2016, and finally, it's time to make the jump. Microsoft has urged users who are still clinging to onto IE 11. Oh my God, yeah, they're saying move on over to Edge. Everyone, I actually switched a number of weeks ago from Chrome back to Edge. And I got to say, Edge is a very, very good browser. Maybe because under the hood, it is essentially Chrome. It is a version of Chromium, but it's smooth. There's lots of add-ons. It works perfectly. The amount of system resources is, very, very minuscule. There's no memory leaks. It is a great browser. And if there was any time to finally drop Internet Explorer, now would be a great time to do that. Now, They say that Edge also has a built-in Internet Explorer mode for websites that still need IE, and many organizations still use old apps and sites that don't really work with modern browsers, so that mode will come in handy. Microsoft says it will support Edge's IE mode until at least the end of 2029, so that's like another 8 years of support for something that should have stopped years ago, giving orgs and IT departments several more years to transition away from old apps. And I actually did not know that. Let's see, how do you get that? Let's see, how do you get to, Edge Internet Explorer mode? How do you get to that? Let's see. So open Microsoft Edge in Windows 10, click the settings, click more settings, default browser, Internet Explorer compatibility section, turn on allow sites to reload in Internet Explorer mode, and then you hit the restart button. So actually buried in the settings of Edge, there is that Internet Explorer mode. The more you know. I had no idea. Okay. So there's that. Let's see. So there's that. Pretty standard story. Everyone should have expected Internet Explorer will be dead here shortly. Okay, so with that story, let's go ahead and continue on here to our next one. And how about, here's a story that I didn't cover the other day, but I wanted to. I am actually a huge fan of, kind of internet connected security cameras and camera feeds. They're super simple, and, just being able to see something at the touch of a button, I'm all for it. Well, in most cases, you're only supposed to see what you put up. If you purchase a camera, that is your camera, that is your feed, that is the stuff that you want to see. Anker had a little bit of a glitch, and that led people to see other people's feeds from, and I believe it was like a mix-up of like over 700 customers could be exposed to strangers. Now, by and large, these cameras are for driveways, they're for, kind of back doors, they're for not a lot of sensitive stuff, but it's still an issue and still a problem. Not something you want. So they mentioned that Eufy, E-U-F-Y, has put out a statement apologizing for a glitch that occurred 2 days ago, which allowed some Eufy home security cameras to see videos from other users. The statement explains that it happened during a software update, but the company claims it only affected a small number of users, 700 people across US, Canada, Mexico, Cuba, New Zealand, Australia, and Argentina. So, yeah, only a few people. Eufy says that the issue was fixed with an emergency update less than 2 hours after it was identified. So pretty good reaction speed. They mentioned that users were able to access video feeds from other users' cameras. However, in an official statement, which you can see the official statement right here in the background as we kind of go along, they said that according to the official statement, Eufy doesn't explain what the bug actually was. It doesn't say it's working to keep this from happening again. It does say it's working to keep this from happening again by upgrading its network and the authentication mechanism between camera servers and app. They mentioned that the initial bug came from Reddit, where users were able to see and control the live feeds from all Eufy cameras in someone else's home, as well as see any previous recorded footage that the other users and the other user's email address. So they mentioned so in the official response, they mentioned how to update, how to protect yourself, and they are going to take steps in the future to make sure that this doesn't happen. I can't even imagine what the actual bug was, but it sounds like somewhere in the update, they just weren't able to, or at least the handshake between owner and server was messed up, and people could see other people's accounts. And admittedly, 700 users, I'm sure that they have many, 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 many more users than 700. I'm betting it just happened with like one particular server that people were connecting to that allowed them to access anyone else who connected to that same server as well. That would be my guess. Temporary, and again, they already have a fix for it. Still, very, very not good. Very no bueno. That's all we have to say about that. But I did find that very, very fascinating because, hey, I have used these cameras in and around the home. It's, you don't, even though, again, probably not much sensitive information was found, you don't want that getting out there. So there you have it. Speaking of updates, let's put a ribbon on this one. This will be probably be the end of this whole Colonial Pipeline thing. At least I hope it is. Colonial Pipeline. They have, the CEO of the company confirmed that they have paid $4.4 million ransom, which, according to multiple sources, we already knew that they had paid that money, but the CEO confirms it wasn't actually supposed to pay that. And that's the issue, was that they were able to get the pipeline back up and working even after they paid the money. The hackers, it's not like they, sent out the password and released all the computers and, unencrypted all the information. No, Colonial Pipeline was able to get that back up and running by themselves. So the money was actually completely wasted, and just further encourages this particular group, which has already hit other targets. It encourages them to go out and do this again. So they mentioned that the CEO, Joseph Blount, has confirmed that his company did in fact pay the $4.4 million to the hackers responsible for the ransomware attack. So they said that it was surprising, not for the amount of money paid, but because paying ransom to cyber criminals is frowned upon by law enforcement agencies. Essentially, it'd be like, paying kidnappers. Because, well, what does paying kidnappers do? It breeds more kidnappers because it actually works. Now, Blount tells the Journal that its operation systems weren't directly impacted, but it shut down the critical energy infrastructure so that it could determine how far hackers reached into the system. So before today's confirmation, cybersecurity reporters suggested that hackers specifically had access to the company's billing system rather than direct control over the pipeline itself. That's a relief. Obviously, the billing system, that's going to be super important because if they have access to not only their funds, but also the funds of, all their customers, and they're able to, dupe people into giving away more money, that'd be huge. But the fact that, they weren't just one flick away from, overloading the pipeline or completely stopping the pipeline, destroying the pipeline in any way, that is a relief. So they mentioned that the hackers were oddly apologetic, that their ransomware caused so much trouble, and that they said that our goal is to make money and not create problems for society, even though the way that they make money is by creating problems for society. It's a very confusing way to look at it. Still, they mentioned that it's unable to bill customers after the outage because they're still working through the mess. But yeah, looks like the CEO confirmed that they weren't even supposed to pay that, but they actually did. I can only imagine by accident. Still, we're probably gonna say that whole Colonial Pipeline thing is done by now, but man, what a strange turn of events, I guess, that hackers are, I'm not saying like it's a good thing, but cyber criminals and hackers are having an effect on the real world. So there you go. Let's go ahead and continue on here. Let's see, we can have another update. Let's see, anything. Okay, how about this one? I'm sure a lot of people out there, we recently did a cryptocurrency kind of intro kind of deal, and we, while we did that, we expressed a lot of concern and skepticism that, hey, cryptocurrency as a market is very open to manipulation. It's not a very stable one. Some of the drawbacks of cryptocurrency are the fact that, hey, there is no central agency and there's no regulation because it is completely decentralized, which means it is open to being tampered with by quote-unquote so-called whales sometimes, not always, but whales sometimes, who have a lot of capital and can move a lot of capital very quickly. It's very open to theft. It's very open to a lot of things that regulation would protect against. Well, this time regulation has caused Bitcoin to crash, and regulation from China in particular. So while China cannot control cryptocurrency specifically, it can control its citizens and exert that, hey, no one is allowed to use cryptocurrency. And there's a number of reasons for that. Just from off the top of my head, I recall that China is trying to implement their own digital currency, which as I recall, is not a cryptocurrency. It's, of course, fully controlled by the state, but they're trying to implement their own digital currency to be used on a lot of applications. This brings a lot of people's finances into the light, which, cryptocurrency is, of course, not meant to be brought into the light. Even beyond that, they don't like the idea of people being able to move massive amounts of money without the government's, kind of consent. So, yeah, China, by and large, has been very adversarial, and they've never been truly supportive of it, but they've now become openly adversarial to it, which is an issue because China as a market, as a people, and as a hub, China has been one of the biggest, again, not the Chinese government, but China as a country has been one of the biggest supporters of cryptocurrency. Users, miners, so much more. Now, let's talk about this and why things have crashed 30-40% overnight, which that volatility is quite unusual. Let's go ahead and talk about this. So anyways, Beijing banned banks and payment firms from providing services related to cryptocurrency transactions. Pretty simple. Again, Beijing is the capital of China, essentially saying, hey, banks and banks, payment platforms, companies, no more cryptocurrency. Don't accept it. Don't use it. If we find out that you are, hey, you will be punished. And by the way, all of this, if you didn't hear, it wasn't too long ago when we were talking about, and that's really when our episode came out, Bitcoin had reached like $64,000 a coin. As of today, the price for the first time in a long time had actually fallen to $34,000. Like half of the entire capital that Bitcoin commanded just wiped out. It's really incredible, this fall that we've been seeing. They mentioned that it also warned investors against speculative crypto trading on Tuesday. It follows falls in Bitcoin more than 10% last week after Tesla said it would no longer accept the currency. And for those who are wondering why that really makes a difference, I think that a lot of people are shaking their hands, kind of in balled up fists of rage at Elon Musk. Tesla was one of the first companies to say that we're going to buy a lot of cryptocurrency. We are going to accept cryptocurrency for our actual goods. And it gave Bitcoin in particular, as well as a couple of other cryptocurrencies, it gave Bitcoin that legitimacy, that this can be used in a real world application. There have been examples of that in the past, but by and large, companies who did it would accept your cryptocurrency for the USD equivalent, and then they would immediately turn around and sell the cryptocurrency. They would not hold it. They would not hodl it. They would just quickly transact it from one to the other. Elon Musk and Tesla specifically said, nope, we're in it. We're investing $1.5 billion into it. And yeah, we're going to do good. And then, of course, I think that Tesla and Elon Musk, they essentially said that, it's an environmental nightmare, which it is. But I also think it had to do with that 10% slip and, that 20% slip that they were seeing, where essentially, imagine just losing $200,000 or $300,000, or wow, I can't even imagine it. $200 or $300 million just because you were holding this particular type of money, not even because of something that happened, but just in general. It just went down. So anyways, they pulled back, said that they weren't going to accept it anymore. They did not say that they sold. They still, Elon Musk claims that they're still sitting on their Bitcoin, kind of treasury, which I'm sure to avoid any kind of, I would say fall, but 40% in a day. China has that, has taken care of that for you. Yeah, I'm sure they're going to slowly sell that over the course of a year or more. Now, with that being said, on Wednesday afternoon, Bitcoin recovered some ground, although it was still down 10% at $38,000. Meanwhile, other digital currencies such as Ether, which also acts as the fuel for the Ethereum blockchain, and Dogecoin lost as much as 22 and 24% respectively. So let's talk about this whole Beijing crackdown. Cryptocurrency trading has been illegal in China since 2019 in order to curb money laundering, but people are still able to trade in currencies such as Bitcoin online, which has concerned the capital. Because again, China in particular really enjoys control over their citizens, the finances, the banking, all that kind of thing. And of course, there's massive circuits there that would like to exist below the grid. I'm talking things like, the black market, illegal trade, stuff like that. So China wants to do its best to crack down on that as well. On Tuesday, 3 state-backed organizations, including the National Internet Finance Association of China, the China Banking Association, and the Payment and Clearing Association of China, because everything is an association apparently, issued a warning on social media where, again, let's face it, if you have 3 different organizations and they all issue the same warning, you have one organization and the 3 are just a front. Still, they said consumers would have no protection if they were to incur any losses from cryptocurrency investment transactions. They added that recent wild swings in cryptocurrency prices seriously violate people's asset safety and are disrupting the normal economic and financial order. So essentially, too much money being made by too many people, and it's completely untaxable and untraceable. And of course, that much untraceable, untaxable income for people, well, that would definitely rub China the wrong way. Now, the article goes on a bit to talk about some of the other influences, but still, I think that's about it for all this. So, let's see. The author also mentions, a couple of things that they mentioned in the past about, talking about other articles, but yeah, there you go. I think we're going to go ahead and wrap that one up. But yeah, that's why Bitcoin dropped so much, was that, China has banned it. And one thing not mentioned in the article here, although if it was, then I apologize for missing it. Oh, wait, here we go. Although the digital currency cannot be traded in China, more than 75% of Bitcoin mining around the world is done in China. So think about that. That means that imagine cryptocurrency as like a full-fledged state, with roads and bridges and buildings and all and infrastructures. Imagine all that being built, and suddenly 75% of your roads and bridges and utilities just fall off the face of the earth. That is, and that would be the equivalent of what China is doing. Over time, it may be easier to mine Bitcoin, but for the moment, a massive amount of mining potential and ability just got wiped off the face of the earth, which is why this dip is different than other dips before. It's not to say that other people won't step in and fill in the gap. Obviously it just became a lot easier, but yeah, you don't replace 75% of your mining capacity overnight. And again, back to Elon Musk's point, it is an environmental disaster what is happening with cryptocurrency. So should it even be readdressed and kind of taken on? That's a good question. Okay. So with that being said, let's go ahead and continue on here. Plenty of other stories that we can talk about. How about that one's all. Okay. This one, a service, HBO Max. If you want the full HBO experience, you get HBO Max. All, HBO streaming has been, a wonderful thing. I actually love this image that they put up. If you're listening to the radio, let me describe it for you. It is, it is the one of the dragons from, obviously, Game of Thrones. And in the middle is a giant shining ad for Tide. Essentially leads us to our point. HBO Max with ads, a $10 a month streaming service starting in June. And yeah, exactly. It's $10 a month, get access to most of the programming, and it will have ads included. I gotta say, stream with ads, Netflix is just open Pandora's box for me. I am so against ads in all of its forms when it comes to streaming that it just totally breaks my immersion, and it's really hard to appreciate a streaming service that has ads. But this is not completely unfamiliar. Anyone who has used Hulu before knows this payment scheme very, very well. Now, they said, and I think what makes it a little bit more not confusing, but kind of catches you off guard, is the fact that it's HBO. HBO itself, you always had to pay for in addition to cable, and HBO never had ads before. Now you're going to get the famously non-ad service HBO with ads at a subsidy. It was, always very, it's kind of confusing, but still. The new ad-supported tier structure is part of the wider Warner Media streaming service HBO Max, which, like I said, 2 days ago, AT&T and Time Warner are splitting up, and Time Warner is merging with Discovery to make a brand new company with all of its media assets and more. So it looks like that company is starting to think of new ways to monetize their services to actually be a successful company. Now, they said that, but now it will cost $10 per month as opposed to the existing $15 a month rate without advertisement. That $5 a month savings comes from more than advertising, however. They confirmed that the ad-supported tier will not include Warner Brothers same-day premiere, films slated to simul-launch in theaters and on HBO Max, through the remainder of 2021. So that includes movies like The Matrix 4, which still blows my mind that they're making a new Matrix. The Suicide Squad and Dune. All of them will be on the $15 a month tier, but not the $10 a month tier. It's very confusing to me why they would even have the $10 a month tier. I don't know many people who are asking for that. Admittedly, you hit a different price point, but that price point is so small. That $5 a month difference, and you're losing so much for it. Very, very confusing. So with that being said, let's see. In a Wednesday press release, Warner Media describes the new tier as the lightest ad load among ad-supported streams. However, he didn't mention exactly what that meant. Does that mean one ad every 30 minutes? Does that mean one ad at the beginning of your program and one ad at the end of your program? What does a light load look like when it comes to advertising? The announcement currently includes 3 examples of HBO Max ads, full screen advertisements while content is paused, ads placed in the service search interface, and brand blocks, which appear to let a single advertiser own a block of content. presumably with this quote, this episode was brought to you with limited ads by so-and-so. Messaging, end quote, as opposed to Conan O'Brien's upcoming HBO Max exclusive series having episodes dominated by specific bottles of hot sauce. So, stuff like that. I guess having, this program was brought to you by, Kia or whatever would be the example. So, I mean, commercial interruption is an option and something that they are exploring. Ads while you pause, I'm not the most concerned about. Ads, let's see, they said ads placed in the service search interface. I'm not the most concerned about that. I'm used to flipping through ads, through websites my whole life. That's not really that big a deal to me. But ads that actually interrupt your viewing, that could be, and it's also confusing because a lot of HBO content is not meant to be broken up anywhere. Like, watch Game of Thrones for like the full hour. There's no commercial breaks. That's not really how it was designed. So to say that most of HBO's content, or most of the HBO content, will suddenly have ad breaks, very, very confusing. Now, with that being said, the pricing structure resembles Hulu's mix of ad-free, though the service is much, much more expensive. Again, HBO Max being $10 and $15, as opposed to Hulu, which is $6 and $12. NBC Peacock is bolder with its pricing strategy, thanks to an entirely free ad-supported tier, which includes full-screen pause ads, along with a $5 a month premium plan and $10 a month premium plus that strips most of the ads, not all of them. So I think, let's see, reading here, I don't think there's anything else we need to talk about, but there you go. I honestly do think it is the fact that HBO is about to be merged with Discovery to make a brand new company, and that company needs new sources of revenue. So ads are, of course, the first go-to, and while they may be the most intrusive and not everyone's favorite, it is the easiest and most integratable. So there you go. This is a pretty big story. We can go ahead and talk about NVIDIA real quick. NVIDIA, long known for their graphics cards, and for those who don't know, even though crypto has fallen off the face of the earth, in the past 24 hours, it's still big business and less profitable now. But here's the thing about graphics cards and GPUs. For every GPU that you could buy, you could hook it up to your, mining rig, server carts and racks and racks and racks of crypto mining. And for every GPU that you were able to get your hands on, let's say it was a new RTX 3080, that thing cost you $700 or whatever. That thing had an expected life and an efficiency that meant that every RTX 3080 that you got, that thing was worth about $2,500 to you. Maybe a little bit more because it dies, maybe a little bit maybe a little bit more because it lives longer, maybe a little bit less because it dies early, but still, every one of those meant cash in your pocket over time. That goes for every iteration of graphics cards. Now, so there you go. That's why graphics cards were in such short supply, ignoring the whole chip shortage that's happening. Every single one that they could purchase meant money made. It was a guaranteed source of income. If you're someone who's in the market for a new PC, if you're looking for a new graphics card, that sucks for you because you have people that are super motivated to get their hands on every possible GPU. As opposed to you who just wants it for video games. You're motivated. You want a new computer, new hardware. It's always fun, but you're not, $2,000 for every single one that you buy motivated. And so NVIDIA, they tried this with their current generation RTX 3080, 3090s, where they would limit the essentially they would know if the card was being used to mine cryptocurrency, and it would throttle itself. It would make itself super inefficient and make it so that it would not. Essentially, NVIDIA wants to make it so that their GPUs don't work with crypto mining, which brings its own set of concerns. If I'm paying NVIDIA $800 for a piece of hardware, why are they artificially telling me what I can and cannot do with that piece of hardware? Clearly, they're trying to combat this global shortage of graphics processors, and they're trying to get more graphics cards into the hands of people that would actually use them for their intended purpose. It's a very tricky situation. Well, looks like NVIDIA is stepping again in the direction that they have before, where most new NVIDIA RTX gaming GPUs will be crypto limited. So there you go. Obviously, the inflated prices have been a problem, and it's a byproduct of the growth of crypto mining. Needless to say, that's bad news for gamers who make up the big chunk of the customer base. To help solve some of the demand side issues, NVIDIA has created dedicated GPUs for professional miners and halved the hash rate for its RTX 3060 cards. Now it's extending those capacity limits to more GeForce chips in a bid to free up its product for gamers. The company has announced that it will apply a reduced Ethereum hash rate for the newly manufactured GeForce RTX 3080, 3070, 3060 Ti graphics cards, saying that you'll be able to spot the cards which start shipping in late May by the new light hash rate or LHR label on products listings and on the physical box. NVIDIA has said that the change would not impact GPUs that have already been purchased. So there you go. It's not a software update that they will be pushing later. Now, to be clear, this is extremely software oriented, and I'm betting that there's going to be people who will be able to hack into these cards, break the cards, and get the full hash rate that they want. Side note, people use Ethereum mining because Ethereum is much more efficient than Bitcoin, and you can, of course, then turn around and sell your Ethereum or trade your Ethereum for Bitcoin. It's just easier to mine and much more efficient. But it's still a huge problem. Now, they say, quote, "We believe this additional step will get more GeForce cards at better prices into the hands of gamers everywhere." NVIDIA's attempts at troubleshooting haven't exactly been an overwhelming success. Earlier this year, it flip-flopped on the hash rate limit of the 3060 by releasing a driver update that undid the caps before fixing them again. And they mentioned, by the way, those wishing to mine could just stick with the mistakenly uncapped driver, though, which means that, once that driver is out there, anyone can just update the driver to be that specific driver, and they can then use those cards to mine that cryptocurrency. The company's bid to directly target the crypto mining crowd may have fared better, saying it launched 4 cryptocurrency mining processors instead of GPUs. They're CMPs, so cryptocurrency mining processors, and they start from $599. NVIDIA said it expected quarterly revenue from the cards to be $150 million, triple its own estimates. That number is about to go down because obviously with cryptocurrency not being worth as much as it was, this time yesterday, let alone it was a couple of months ago, less people will be mining it and buying these things. But for the moment, it seems like cryptocurrency mining is still very much a thing and something people are going to be keeping an eye out for. So there you have it. NVIDIA trying to get its RTX cards on the correct side of the gaming personal use versus cryptocurrency mining situation. Is it the best solution? Personally, I'm of the mind that companies should not tell people how to use their products after they paid for them. I mean, it's your product. It's like someone telling you what to do with your house, your car, your whatever. But at the same time, there is an issue. There very clearly is an issue, and I'm sure that NVIDIA themselves don't find themselves to be in a good position either. So let's see. So some of the articles that we didn't get to today include this hacking ring that allegedly stole Americans' identities and rented them to gig workers. So it's identity theft, but a very weird identity theft where it gives you the ability to work within the United States. By the way, they indicted 24 Brazilian nationals in Massachusetts and California, of which 14 have been arrested, essentially for stealing thousands of people's identities and renting them to illegal immigrants so that they can work in gig economies. There's a Google AI skin tool that all you have to do is take a picture of your worrisome wart, take a picture of your worrisome mole, and it automatically compares it to, WebMD, and it will tell you what skin condition you have. You too can finally find out what that weird growth is on your back. Just have a friend take a picture of it for you. That, and Amazon extends the ban on police use of its facial recognition software. Yet again, another extension that, Amazon facial recognition, which totally exists and works pretty good, will not be licensed to police agencies. Everyone, that's all the time we have here for today. Thank you so much for tuning into the program. Until next time, have a great day. Thank you so much. Everyone, hey, bye.